In this video, we're going to talk about the characteristics of three-dimensional shapes. A three-dimensional shape is a solid figure or shape. It pops out at you and has three dimensions. These are length, width, and height. Three-dimensional shapes have faces, edges, and vertices. Let's go through some of the regular three-dimensional shapes. The first 3D shapes that we're going to talk about are cubes and rectangular prisms. The shape on the left is a cube. The shape on the right is a rectangular prism. What do you notice the differences between the shape on the left and the shape on the right? If you noticed that there are 6 equal-sized squares for faces, you're correct. What do you notice with the faces of the rectangular prism? If you notice that instead of squares, all the faces are rectangles, you're correct. On a rectangular prism, opposite faces are equal, meaning the front and the back are going to be equal rectangles. Now, attributes include faces, edges, and vertices. We already talked about the faces. A cube and a rectangular prism both have 6 faces. Now, let's talk about the edges. The edges are these flat sides of each of the squares. So on this front alone, the cube has 4 edges. Pause the video and see if you can count how many edges the cube has. If you counted 12 edges, you're correct. Now pause the video and count how many edges a rectangular prism has. If you counted 12 edges on the rectangular prism, you're correct as well. The final attribute we're going to talk about is a vertice. A vertice is where the edges meet. On the front, there are 4 vertices on this cube. Pause the video and count how many vertices you see. If you saw 8 vertices, you're correct. Now pause the video and count how many you see on the rectangular prism. The rectangular prism also has 8. So the only real difference between a cube and a rectangular prism is that a cube has 6 faces that are equal-sized squares, where a rectangular prism has all faces being rectangles. Now let's talk about 2 more 3D shapes, cones and pyramids. On the left, we have a cone, and on the right, we have one kind of pyramid. What do you notice about the difference between these 2 shapes? If you notice that a cone has a circular base, you're correct. Now this pyramid has a square base, but a pyramid does not have to have a square base. It just has to have a polygon for a base. What this means is that we can have a square pyramid, a triangular pyramid, we can have a rectangular pyramid, and so forth. What's another difference that you notice? If you notice that the surface of the cone is curved, you're correct. The pyramid, on the other hand, has triangular faces. This is going to be true for every pyramid. And finally, if you notice that we have 1 vertice on each, you're correct. Both of these shapes come to a point. The next 3D shape that we're going to talk about is a cylinder. What do you notice about the cylinder? If you said we have 2 parallel and equal bases, you're correct. And they're both circles. We also have the curved surface that connects the 2 bases. In addition, there are no vertices on a cylinder. The last 3D shape we're going to talk about is a sphere. A sphere is a very interesting 3D shape. It doesn't have any bases. One interesting thing about a sphere is that it's completely symmetrical. No matter which way you look at it, all parts of the surface are going to be equal distances to the center of the circle. A sphere is round in shape. What this means is that we have no vertices, corners, or edges.